Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let me just quickly finish the conversation about cruisers and ask a question. You know, last year we had to find $25 billion to take out of our bill to meet all the requirements. And in spite of that, there was money left to modernize those 7 cruisers. So you can see from our standpoint, we thought that was pretty important because it's common sense. If you're going to maintain your fleet without spending a lot of money to buy new ships, you simply modernize the ships you have. And so I just wanted to kind of make that clear that we were pretty clear in our intention. And I think that your proposal probably is within the letter of the law, but I'm not sure it follows the spirit of our clear intention to say, here's 7 cruisers, here's the money to modernize them and proceed. So I'm hoping that we can work together, because you won't always be, all you 3 gentlemen will always be sitting there and you say, okay, we're not really putting one foot in the grave, 9 years, everything's going to be fine. But I've seen times when the Navy said, well, here's an aircraft carrier and we're going to spend $350 million to do an availability, and which was done, and then they said, here's $400 million to finish the availability, and then all of a sudden somebody said, well, we need the $400 million somewhere else. We're going to decommission the aircraft carrier, and $350 million down the drain. So I just want to leave you with that thought that we'd be happy to work with you to kind of understand what our clear intention was. That's just a comment. Doesn't require a response. Here's my question. I want to talk about the littoral combat ships. You know, that was going to be the ship of the future, and we spent a lot of time and energy developing that ship, and then we decided it is the ship of the future, and we're going to build 52 of these. And when Secretary Hagel was before the subcommittee a week ago or 2 weeks ago, I said, I see where you've decided to cut back the number of littoral combat ships from 52 to 32. And he said, well, no, we're not really not going to build the last 20 littoral combat ships. We just are only going to contract for the first 32, and then we're going to take another look at the littoral combat ship. Maybe we can upgrade it. Maybe we can replace it, whatever. But I always thought that what we do is we try to figure out what we're going to need, and then to be cost efficient, we buy as many of those as we think we need. So I guess my question is, if you decide that maybe it's not exactly what we wanted, somehow you're going to take a second look, I mean, how did you figure out we'll do the first 32? We're tight on money, and somehow in the meantime we're going to decide that there's a better way to do the littoral combat ship, or maybe even replace it. It seems to me it's either the ship of the future or it's not. So how did you decide to say we'll just do 32 of those, and then we'll decide what to do with the next 20?
Yeah, we need some answers on that. I mean, respectfully, in our first hearing, we didn't get a lot of answers to these questions. So,
well, I think it's important
if the gentleman would yield, I'd associate myself with the question just raised by the chair and the gentleman from Florida. And I guess I would just add as an, why buy any more?
Well, I think it's important to look at exactly what the Secretary of Defense said, which is don't engage in contract negotiations past 32. Well, that will take us almost all the way through this fit-up on the littoral combat ship as they're being built today. And it's not unusual at all. In fact, we've done it on virtually every ship to take a look at are we getting the requirements that we need? Are we getting the lethality that we need? Are we getting the survivability that we need? And we've done it, the DDG 51s. We're about to start building the 4th consecutive flight of those, and the ones we're building now are very different from the first ones we built. Same thing with the Virginia-class submarines. We're about to begin to build Flight 4 of those. So we're taking a look now, and we will have this answer, you will have this answer in order to inform the 16 budget. And the options that he directed me was keep building the LCS, build a modified LCS, or a completely new design. But he also said, take into account cost, and take into account delivery time to the fleet, because he said in his statement that we needed to get to this number of small surface combatants to meet our war plans, to meet our presence requirements. So that's the look that we're engaged in now. We will be finished in time to put whatever we find into that. But this is not an unusual thing to do for a class, particularly a new class of Navy ships. We have just deployed the first one to Singapore. 10-month deployment, came back, had an excellent deployment. We have block buys for 20. And the last thing I'd like to say is one of the things that I am very proud of about the littoral combat ship is that the first of these ships cost north of $750 million. We've now driven that cost down so that the ships that are coming off that we're contracting for now will cost about $350 million. And when you add the weapon systems and its cost to the cost of the hull, and the fact that you can switch out these weapon systems, the fact that you don't have to build a new ship as technology changes, we're bringing these ships in at pretty close to what Congress was told they were going to cost in 2002 dollars, which I think is a pretty remarkable accomplishment.
And I appreciate that.
So you're suggesting that the deployment to Singapore was an enormous success? I thought it was replete with all sorts of issues.
Anytime you have a first ship of a class, we deployed this one early to learn some lessons, but it was available for service at the same rate the rest of the Pacific Fleet was available. It performed all the missions that we sent her out there to do. Harris.
If everything is working well, I've endorsed both models. Why are we working on version 3 here? Is the issue of survivability, isn't it?
Well, again, it is not unusual to do this for Navy ships.
I know that this is sort of what makes the committee very exasperated and frustrated. I mean, we look at the Army with the ground combat vehicle and messed around with that. With all due respect to the expeditionary vehicle, we spent a huge investment. I mean, these are sort of what we want to try to eliminate, this type of situation here. I don't mean to jump on your time here, but this is sort of the crux of what we do here. People are looking over our shoulder wondering what's going on here.
Well, as I said, we're driving the cost down on this ship, and we've gotten it down and through competition and through block buys to do that. We are where we need to be in terms of the weapon systems in their stage of development. But if you look back...
Whatever you put on the ships, we're for it, but they could be put on the new model as well.
Well, anything that you build, you have to be modular going forward, because to build these systems in and not be able to change them as technology changes, no matter what kind of ship we build, we can't afford to do that anymore.